We are going to be talking about pools and plumbing today in regards to what's been happening here in Texas with all of the weather and the frozen pipes that people are experiencing. We've got two experts here, Brad and Vaughn. Brad is our pool specialist and Vaughn is our plumbing specialist.
Have you lost power yet? Or
Nope.
did you have power? Good. So the pool's all up and running?
No.
Oh.
I'm afraid we might have done the wrong thing.
Uh-oh.
So we have a service provider that services the pool, and they told us to do, like, I don't know, my husband did it all, so I'm not sure.
To drain it all?
I hope so.
So I drained mine.
Uh-huh.
So my pool's frozen solid. You walk on it.
Yeah, mine is too.
And the minute we started getting the rolling blackouts, I just changed it to, I just went out and drained it while I knew I had liquid. And you wouldn't believe the calls, the pictures, the things that we're getting that didn't happen with people. We got ourselves a mess.
Yeah.
Moving forward. So no, that's good. Draining it's good because, you know, if people lost power, you were in trouble. It's going to bust equipment.
I got a question for you. I've seen people put like rubber tires, throw them in a pool to take up the expansion of the ice. What do you think of that? Is that, you ever hear of doing
I'll
that?
tell you, I turned mine off and allowed it to completely freeze over because the top layer is going to freeze over, even if it gets 2 inches of ice.
Sure.
As it starts to build ice and starts to press, it's going to start moving its way down in the water.
Yeah.
Instead of pushing out. There's nothing holding it, you know, from pushing down and building more ice downward. And that's kind of the scenario. So I was out there today and we got enough sun that the edges and everything are loose on mine. It'll refreeze tonight. But then after that, the key where people are going to have problems is people are going to be impatient to get everything fired back up and get everything going again. And that's going to create problems because there's going to be frozen pipes in the ground and they're going to pressure everything back up. And that's when they're going to break some things. And as hard as it's going to be for people to just don't do anything till Monday or so, you know, that's going to be the difficult part.
So Brad, I found out, here's what the pool company told us to do. Okay. Power down the equipment at the main breaker. And then release the air relief valve on top of the filter to release the pressure. Twist off the main cap at the bottom of the filter tank. So that, I guess some may have already been frozen, but at least the water has somewhere to drain. So I guess they did drain it.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So and then twist off the drain plugs on all the pumps.
Yes, so that's exactly what I did. Okay. Where people are going to get in trouble is they're going to say, man, everything's melting really good. Saturday, it's fantastic. Friday night, it froze, but everything's going to be fantastic. And then they're going to put everything up. They're going to fire everything up. And then there's going to be lines that aren't completely thawed out yet. And then that's when it's going to break stuff. Stuff that wasn't broke, they're going to break. So I can't stress to people enough to just be patient because the last thing you want right now is broke equipment. I was doing a conference call with Paul and Jody Miller this morning, and we started checking stock. We were already at the limit as far as how fast the manufacturer's making this stuff because the amount of building going on. We can't get equipment now sometimes for new builds. Now we've got thousands of equipment sets that are frozen, busted. I've got pictures of pumps that are broke plumb in half. Filter housings that are broke plumb in half, multiple equipments that are 3 pumps, the filter and the heater that's destroyed. So we checked stock on a bunch of stuff this morning that's a supplier. There is none. Everybody, it's all gone. So I don't know. It's really going to cause a log jam in new construction and getting this stuff repaired.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to be calling their insurance after this week too.
Oh, for sure. I think a lot of them are going to be calling us and they're going to be saying, hey, this is under warranty, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's really, really difficult situation. We don't want to be in that situation, but you know, we can't control this. There's no way. And especially power outages, if the freeze guard stays on and you have power the whole time, it's okay. It'll just continue to run and everything is good. But one minute you start losing power, that's when it really changes the ball game, especially at single digits. That's really was bad part. So
Brad, the question I sent to you earlier from Don Summer.
To Donnie and Summer,
Yeah.
They did drain the equipment. Just to give you all a heads up, they drained the equipment. The pool is downhill from there. Some of the water came out of the filter, but very easily could have drained back into the pool, and they don't have their equipment covered right now. The best thing is just leave it be until, I would say, at least Monday, and then people are going to want to start getting them just to see what's going on. But the longer the better. Typically it's 48 hours past the last freeze will allow that anything that's in the lines to because where it becomes a problem is if the ice is bigger and you put a bunch of pressure on it, shoves it to the inlets of the pool, then all that pressure backs up, and if there's weak spots, it can become a problem. So patience, figuring out what's wrong. Some of the damage that people are going to be able to see is visible, but that doesn't mean that that's all the damage, because there's things up inside heaters and things that won't be. We'll start Monday really assessing damage, but even we'll be able to see broke pumps and broke obvious things. But until we change them and fire them up, we really don't have a way to know unless we pressure test. And the best way to do that is just hook everything back up. So it's going to be a long road, but just patience with everybody, not starting them up too early. That's the key.
A couple more questions about the pool. So Kurt has asked, my 2 pumps are running. I've heard pros and cons of covering the equipment and running the heater. Any thoughts?
I wouldn't run the heater. I actually covered my equipment prior to me draining it. Once I started getting power outages, I was afraid those power outages. I've been down that road before, and they say they're going to be 15 minutes in there 2 days. So the minute that it happened, we drained it. But just a tarp with a little light underneath there just to help. And those pumps will generate some heat, will just help keep that, as long as it's circulating, all's good. And just keep it circulating until the freeze guard turns it off.
Jennifer has asked, she says, we're thankful our pool has continued to run, but our panel went out. Is there a safety feature that causes the panel to just shut down?
Have they had power? If they've had power outages, sometimes that it causes it to just freeze up. If they'll flip the breaker for the panel, usually it's a 15 amp breaker that's in there. If they'll flip the breaker for that, now that power and everything is pretty much restored, flip that back on, typically that will reset that equipment, and then it will come up where everything's visible. If that doesn't, then it sounds more like a power surge than the freeze side. But if everything's running, then I would maybe even just reset. There's a reset button on some equipment depending on the manufacturer. I would hit that reset button to allow it to reset. But right now, if it's running, I would allow it to run, especially through tonight, because it's going to be extremely cold tonight.
So, and Brad, I have a pool, but I'm fairly new to owning a pool. But the pool is ran through the water to the pool is ran through the sprinkler system, correct?
We're able to put it on its own zone from the sprinkler system. The last zone on because I built your pool, so the last zone on your sprinkler system is the refill to the pool. Not all do that. Some of them do a hose.
Not all do. Okay.
Yeah,
but if it is,
it's
the easy way to determine if I have a pool, if it's a pool issue or a house issue, if it's gone through your sprinkler system.
Yeah, you isolate the two, and then you can determine which, that's the key, is start isolating things so you can really hone down what you got. And then you can tell the plumber, hey, it's not the sprinkler system, it's in the house because I turned this off. And it saves him some time when he gets there, and you can get the problem fixed quicker.
Is there a time, how long should they keep it shut off? Because I know Brad was saying like to wait a couple of days. Is there a waiting time that people should do before they turn it back on?
Well, the idea is to isolate your plumbing system, your water system from pressure. Once you've established, once it thaws out, there's no set time, but the idea is to go out and have someone turn the water on very slowly and somebody else in the house watching to make sure there are no leaks. And if you look if the person looks at the little dial on top of the water meter, you'll see that there's water flowing through that meter. And as soon as that dial stops, that means that your house is pressurized. If there are no leaks, you're fine. If there's a leak, you're there to shut it off real quick.
That meter that he's talking about that's very, very small on your water meter is a huge help. Anytime you think if you have a sprinkler, even after this, people will call me all the time because we redo the sprinkler system and they say, oh, I have a sprinkler leak. I've got to have a sprinkler leak. Well, a lot of times it's because they're downhill from someone else and they're getting subgrade water. And that's how I show them a lot of times is we'll go to their water meter, make sure everything is off, and you can look at that little bitty dial. And so I show a customer, I'll take a cup of water and go over to their outside faucet and just barely turn on a little bit of water and they can see how much it moves. So if they truly had a leak, that thing would be moving. It'd be obvious to see. So that little dial is super important for a homeowner that doesn't really know a lot. If that's not moving, that thing meters such fine amounts of water, you'll notice that you don't have a leak.
Exactly, Brad. That dial is not the number dial, not the needle. There's a little tiny triangular dial on the lower right or left-hand corner of that meter. That's the thing that tells you whether there's any water going through that meter or not. It's because you never see that. If it's a small amount, you'll never see the needle move. But that little dial, if it's not moving, there's no water going through that meter.
It's about the size of a nickel or something.
Yes.
It's not very big.
That dial's not moving, you've got no water going through there. And if it's a very slow leak, like Brad said, that you'll see that dial just start to move very slowly.
And Jonathan's got a question. It looks like he's on the call. So
Come
he
on,
can talk
Jonathan,
to you.
what's your question?
Hey, Callie, my HOA question. Our HOA pool sprung a leak tonight in the equipment. PVC pipe is basically exploded. The return pipe, it looks like, out of the pumps. We have 3 large, I believe they're sand filters pumps that operate the pool. We shut it all down. We shut the power off and we don't know, like, are we just begging for all those motors to go bad tonight? Is that?
Yes, unless you drain the water out of those pumps. They're at the base of those pumps and the base of those filters is plugs. Drain all the plugs out and that lets all the water out of those pumps. If you don't, as hard a freeze as we're going to have tonight, you could more than likely going to break pumps. They'll literally bust in half. I have pictures of some on my phone that people have sent me so far with 1-inch cracks that the pump literally separated in half where the basket is at.
If you take a plug out of a sand filter, what comes out? Just the water? Or is that sand all going to come out?
Depends on what manufacturer they are and how old they are, but typically when you drain the water out of them, you're going to get some sand, but it's better than replacing that whole unit. Right now, if that pool doesn't have any circulation until mid next week, it's going to be fine.
Our pool people are supposed to be out tomorrow. I'm just worried about tonight.
Yeah, you're going to have a really, really hard freeze tonight. So those pumps they're sitting there with just water in them. And if they freeze, they'll bust, more than likely.
So can I sign back on when I'm at the pool so you can tell me where these plugs are at? What size socket?
We'll figure it out together.
Go on down there, Jonathan.
Well, I've already been there once to shut the power off. So
that
is it a socket? Is it what am I going to expect to find on this?
Usually they're a thumb screw. Give me just a second. I'll show you what's on mine and as I have them on my back patio. So for example, this is the plug out of my filter. Notice that on the bottom it has a 7/8 nut built on it that's plastic. Just be careful. Crescent wrench or anything like that. And then there's an O-ring here. Just make sure that O-ring comes off. On the side of the pumps, this is the plug that's there, just done by hand. Just loosen it up. Same thing on this one's on the heater. And then this one is on the cleaner pump. All of these are going to be at the bottom of the pump. This one I couldn't do by hand, had to use a crescent wrench, but I did that at 5 a.m. on Monday. The minute I lost power, I went out and just drained everything. And then that way you know, everything can just expand and contract and we don't have any issues.
We've got 3 big sand filters. I don't know if you can see them. And then that's the pump down there. We've got 3
So
of
the base of
those.
that pump, at the base of that pump in the front is where that one's going to be.
Okay.
And
And then
and
that's the sand filters.
yeah,
So
I
they'll
would
have one
drain,
at the bottom as well.
yeah, I would. There'll be a plug at the bottom of them. I would
And
drain
then
every
there's
bit of
an
that.
iceberg. We don't know how we got an iceberg, but we got one.
That looks like
Yeah.
something is already leaking,
Yeah, that is definitely leaking.
and that's
All right,
that's the
so
hardest
3
thing.
pumps and 3 filters. I'll take the plugs out of.
Yeah, that'll be huge. That'll save you a lot of money.
All right.
All right, go get busy, Jonathan, and let me know how it goes. Message me later. We have another question, a pool question for you, Brad, from Tracy. She's saying, we have no power outages. The system has been running. The spa has no ice and still is circulating. The pool is frozen and is circulating. What should I do? Keep breaking the ice in the pool?
So my suggestion would just break the ice around the skimmer so that the pool can keep circulating. It's pulling water from the bottom of the pool and it's pulling from the skimmers. As long as the ice obstruction in the skimmers is clear, it'll continue to circulate. I'm not a big, for example, mine's turned off. So literally it's one solid sheet of ice. You could stand on it. I'm not a big fan of going out there and busting up the ice, because to me that ice is sitting there holding on to the tile and all that stuff. As you're busting it, you're just all over that tile, hitting the tile and all that. I mean, like I said, as it builds ice across the top, it'll start to build downward. It's not going to create enough pressure to.
Now, Brad, what about you? If somebody has a pool, like we hear Tracy said she's got her pool, it's running. We went ahead and I think we did all those steps to drain the pool and shut it off and shut it down and whatnot. I think we did ours on maybe Monday, we shut it off, or maybe it was Tuesday. For those that are still they're not frozen over or they have it turned on still, what advice could you give to a homeowner with a pool right now that hasn't done anything yet? Or let's just say it's even worse, it's frozen over, like 2 scenarios. It's not frozen yet. What can they do? It is frozen, and golly, if they still have it turned on, I don't know.
Yeah, so if the pool is running properly, the main thing is that the water level is maintained so that it can continue to pool water. And as long as it's running, let it run, and it will, you'd be surprised at how many people, I build $100,000 projects and they say, I'm not letting this run for a week. I'm not going to pay the electric bill. It's cheaper to run the electric bill. I promise you. So just let it run, let it do its thing, make sure that it has plenty of water, and it will maintain itself. These systems have a freeze guard protection for that reason. And the part that really compromises that is power outage. That's when it won't maintain. So if the powers went out, and I've had a lot of these calls where they woke up the next morning, power was out long enough, they go out there, the pool's not wanting to run. It's not, it's not going to run. It's all frozen up. Make sure the breakers are off to the pumps so that those pumps don't try to sit there and run and burn themselves up. At least we can try to make sure that if the freeze doesn't get the pump, we don't burn the pump up in the process of trying to push frozen water. So if the pool's frozen over, turn the breakers off, say your prayers tonight, and hope, let everything thaw out on its own. There's going to be people out there with heat guns. There's going to be people out there banging on stuff. Let it thaw out on its own, because you've got, 2-inch lines, 1 3/4 lines. Just let them just thaw out. They will be thawing here soon. Just let them thaw out and take their time, and they're going to notice some pipes that break as it starts to thaw. Mm-hmm. But the way a pool works is if the top freezes over, the bottom down below that, the water is still liquid. So if it is freezing in those lines, a lot of times if you just let them just thaw out on their own, when they expanded towards the water. And so they have some room for expansion, as long as the water is still in the pool, even if it's shut off. So they'll have some, a check valve or a 90 brake or something like that, but that's way easy to fix, and it's way cheap to fix. We're talking, some of these pumps, the variable speed Pentair pump replaced is $1,800, probably $1,800, $2,000. Well, right now we can't even get on them. So if you can just have to have a check valve or a 90 or a piece of pipe that's broke, well, heck, that can be up and running in a couple of hours and everything's good. You start breaking pumps and filters and things like that, you're going to spend a lot of money.
So, and you said one of the valuable things that I heard you say earlier, Brad, was wait 48 hours after the last freeze before you start turning everything back on.
Correct. That's from the manufacturer. They called me. The Pentair Warranty Center, the largest Pentair Warranty Center in the world, is in Flower Mound. And I'm really good friends with those guys. And he called, because he knows where I live out in the country. And he called me and he's told me some things. And he said, and if things freeze over, make sure you wait 48 hours,
Okay.
And these guys are very, very good. They're really good to us, and they're very smart. And
Good.
so I take what their information, they do nothing but warranty work for Pentair products. So do a great job. And so I think it's good advice.
This is Eric. I got two. She said that the pool was circulating. The pool is not circulating. The spa has no ice in it, but the pool is frozen over and the pool is not circulating.
Okay. So, and the pumps, so the lines are frozen at the pump. So if in that scenario,
the pump is circulating and going, everything's fine at the equipment. It's just not coming out the valves in the pool. Yeah. But everything's moving at the pump.
So it's got to be going somewhere. If you're not losing water, it may be circulating. It's probably circulating under the ice. The water can only go two places: back in the pool, or it has a broke line and it's pushing the water out, which would be dropping the water level in the pool. So more than if the pump is moving water, it's moving it back into the pool. If that's the case, I would continue to leave it. If at any point that stops and doesn't, then I would drain the equipment, turn the breaker off, and let it set till Monday, and then put everything back together.
Now I do have weaker spots in the pool where the ice is frozen. That's a telltale sign that it's still circulating.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
because that water's moving. It may not be moving everywhere, but at least it's got some water movement and nothing's busted. So I would continue to just leave that doing what it's doing.
Okay.
The freeze guard's trying to protect itself.
Yeah, I put drop lights on all the equipment.
Yeah, that's
mechanic
good.
Drop lights to where I got a little heat.
And if you can put a tarp or a comforter or anything over that, that'll help maintain that heat in there and will really, really help it a lot, especially depending on the wind and kind of some things like that where it'll give you some, just help that. All you need to generate just a little bit of heat.
I think that we've come to our top of our hour. First off, guys, thank you all, both of you guys, for coming on. Definitely good for me, and I think everybody else needs to hear it. And I'm glad we're kind of squashing some, not wives' tales, but people say, try this, do that. It's great to kind of know from the experts what to do. So before we head out, Brad, any final thoughts on your end?
Patience. This is going to take some time. This for everybody. Like we were talking earlier, the equipment, materials, parts, everything else were already stretched for not only because of as much construction is going on, but the coronavirus had shut down a lot of these plants. So they're literally making plants and pulling parts and making what they can do to keep up and struggling at that. I heard one figure of 80,000 equipment sets in the DFW area that are destroyed. I can't imagine how they're going to get all the pieces and amongst the pandemic. So just patience. There's going to be a lot of people that can't circulate their pools. Their pumps are busted. They can't get pumps. Make sure you treat your water with, even if it's a salt pool, you can put chlorine, like a chlorine shock in the pool, brush it around, check your chemistry like normal, and keep your chemistry up and hand brush it until you can get circulation again. That's going to be the key. The water is going to be really cold for a while now. So algae can't grow from 50 degrees and under of water temperature. So you've got a little bit of time, but this literally could take months before some people's pools are back up and running because of just the fact of not having the equipment. You know, you could have all the people in the world, but if you don't have the pumps to do it. And we checked for example, we checked the state of Texas this morning, and there was 4 filter housings. I'm sorry, the complete filter housing. There was 4 in the state of Texas. So I'm sure that more are coming, but they were delayed because of the weather. And then what does get here is spoken for weeks. So just patience. That's the key. And it's going to be tough, but you can treat your water and hand stir it up a little bit and just try to get through until you can get some circulation.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you guys both again. So I'm going to say my final thoughts. For those of you with a pool, one of the biggest things that I heard from Brad is, hey guys, it's going to seem like you want to turn it on Saturday, but wait till Monday. Let everything thaw out before you go turning it back on and checking everything out. And if things are needing in repair, be patient, because pool parts are like toilet paper right now. We have a shortage of supply of it. So be patient. Again, thank you guys for joining us. And I've had a great time. This has been very valuable for me. For our audience, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you've learned something. I know some of you jumped on, got your questions answered. I know some of you guys are just listening in, and that's great. If you have any further questions after listening to this, let us know, and we'll help you get connected to the right people to get your questions or your needs answered. And hey, we're almost through this. So we just got a couple more days to go. We'll make it through. We've been making it through COVID. We've made it through other things, and we'll make it through this. So take care, stay safe, and stay warm, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.